All right. Thank y'all for coming out. We are going to get started with our zoning meeting. I am Dr. Sunny Schafnacher, and I'm the principal of the new school yet to be named. And that process will come after the zoning. But tonight, we're going to go over what we know about the school so far and the zoning process, and hopefully get some feedback from you all before you leave this evening. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Dr. Garfield Adams. He is the Assistant Superintendent of Operations for the school. Did I say that correctly? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before we get started, I would be remiss if I did not recognize our distinguished school board member, Ms. Henderson. Thank you for being here this evening. We appreciate you being here. These are members of my team and some members of outside of my team. I'll let them introduce themselves. And the reason I would like for you all to get to know them is if you have additional questions afterwards, they're here. You may have some questions for them as we go through this presentation, but I do like them to introduce themselves to answer any questions you may have.
I'm Doug Shover. I'm the Director of New Construction for Knox County Schools, and I just appreciate everybody coming out this evening.
Good evening, y'all. I'm Ryan Dillingham. I'm the Director of Transportation for Knox County Schools.
Sorry. Carly Harrington, Chief of Communications for Knox County Schools. Yay!
She is the celebrity of the bunch. Uh-oh, technical difficulties. So as I said before, we'll go over fairly quickly. So just you won't be here for a long presentation. We do want to give you all time to ask any necessary questions that you have, but really take your input. We've got a parking lot right behind me to share, so you can share any input that you all have, because we really, part of the listening sessions, we really want to take that input and make some sound decisions moving forward. So basically, what we're looking at tonight is some of the challenges that we had. The school zones may change significantly between Ball Camp Elementary, Carnes Elementary, and Hardin Valley Elementary. So in order to address the needs of this growing community, that's why we're here today. And so we are excited that we'll be opening the new elementary school in August of 2023. The capacity for that school will be 1,200 students. We will not open at capacity, but we will definitely have room to grow. This is what the school will look like. Very excited about. We've got a breakdown. I know Mr. Schofer has provided me some additional information, but he can get into the logistics of everything. He is an architect. That's what he does. But it's a very beautiful school. Very excited for the space that it will have, but really just the new, cool, sleek design as well. So this is basically the Knox County Planning and Development. This is just a breakdown on how things look. So basically the beginning of this is what happens is the Knox County Planning, they collect the data for the buildings and permits. They provide population forecasts for Knox County schools. And so that is a very daunting task when you look at all the new developments. It's really a formula that they were able to provide us, how many students per family. So that's how we come up with these, the school size and the numbers of what capacity would be. What we do as Knox County Schools is we develop the enrollment forecast, looking at the current enrollment. We also design and recommend the school attendance zones. And so basically when you look at the school zones, a lot of things factor and when we look at as far as feeder patterns and so forth, but also when we look at busing routes. So that is very an important detail that we look at. Once again, Mr. Dillingham can share with you some of the concerns or can address some of the concerns that you all have, and he can communicate to you all how we really look at that and address those concerns. We will develop and recommend elementary school zones by October of 2022. So basically we have 3 listening sessions, and I call them listening sessions because it's not a big presentation. And so of October 22, what we'll be looking at is we'll take all of the input that we have, look at all of the assessments that we are currently looking through currently, and then we will have more of a zoning proposal for the school board. The zoning considerations, again, school capacity, transportation, the PRZ, geographic and man-made obstacles. For instance, if you have a bridge that is a man-made obstacle that really prohibits us from accessing certain roads, and congruent to elementary school boundaries. So here are the timelines. Basically, we're going to gather input starting today, September the 7th, September the 8th. Once again, we're going to look at the final presentation, which will be September the 22nd, and then we will make a recommendation to the school board on October the 5th. This is your current school zone, so if you're not aware of exactly what it looks like currently, I wanted you all to get a good picture of what it looks like currently for the 3 different elementary schools, and once again, we'll look at what it'll look like in the future. The enrollment, what we're looking at, or the 3 different schools, as you can see, it's a breakdown. Ball Camp will probably have the least impacted school because of the number of students moving up. But when you look at Hardin Valley Elementary, you can tell their enrollment's much larger, and so is Carnes as well. Okay, this information that you all have right here, the rezoning at knoxschools.org. Please provide your feedback. We would like to take that feedback. Please share any information that you have for us on the parking lot. We'd like to take that back as well as we really look to move forward and capture any concerns that you all have. We would like for you all to send in those 2 locations, and we want to ensure that we can answer those questions. We'll probably provide you an FAQ. And in response to your questions, but once again, we will take that in consideration as we make additional recommendations to the board. Told you it was quick. Questions?
So this zoning, is it just for the elementary school?
Yes. Is the zoning just for the elementary school?
Oh, thanks.
Now, when you say elementary school, you mean elementary schools, correct?
Correct. Yeah,
Yes.
I know when they did the middle school, I didn't know, if you were gonna change other stuff at the same time.
It will not affect the middle school now.
Do you know how the elementary schools will feed into other districts? Is it possible that Ball Camp could be going towards Carnes, or will it stay in Hardin Valley?
So that's a transportation question. So once again, when we look at the rezoning, we're really alleviating the capacity of those particular schools, the current schools that we have. So those students will be going to the new Northwest Elementary School. So are you asking, are they going to go to another elementary?
No, so we're in the Ball Camp school system. We relocated here. We're, I guess, part of the problem. We moved here from upstate New York, and one of the reasons we moved here, no offense to anybody, was because of the Hardin Valley District. So the question we would have is, we relocated to be in Hardin Valley schools because of the increase in population. Do you anticipate that kids that are currently in the Hardin Valley District will go maybe to Carnes as a part of this rezoning in the future? I'm talking middle school, high school.
So and I'm glad you brought that up. So I believe there's a Hardin Valley Elementary School, there's a Hardin Valley Middle School, and there's a Hardin Valley High School. The reality of it is it's a branding thing. Okay, so what I mean by that is our elementary schools are not named by the high school, typically. So it's to answer your question, it's very possible that they won't stay at the Hardin Valley track because they're all in one central location, if that makes any sense. So
Like when we look at it, just being maybe not as knowledgeable in the districts as you are, we're relocating. We see that Ball Camp falls under within the Hardin Valley District as a whole. So the kids from Ball Camp, unless I'm misreading the situation, go to Hardin Valley Middle School and then go to Hardin Valley Academy. That's not how-
see, and that's the misconception. Because it has the name Hardin Valley Elementary School, it's almost like this school belongs to this middle school and it belongs to this high school. if
How is Ball Camp split then?
My children go to Cedar Middle School. And my kids go to Hardin, then they're gonna go to Hardin
Is
Valley.
there a map? Is there a
Yeah.
plan?
Yes, yes. So that's the zoning, the current zone, which you were looking at. And then when we rezone, once again, it will only affect the elementary schools. So when we look at rezoning, we're really talking about just the elementary schools. Whatever feeder pattern they fall in now would be the same feeder pattern they would fall in for middle school.
Knoxschools.org.
If you go to knoxschools.org, go to the, our district, and then the about, and then there should be a.
So that shouldn't change.
You can type in your address and see
Okay.
exactly.
There'll be 3 different maps. There's one for
Yeah.
elementary, one for middle, one for high.
Thank you very much.
Because there's like, you know, if there's 6 elementary schools, there might be 3 middle schools, and there might be 2 high schools, you know, so it kind of, that's,
Welcome to West Knoxville.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is this a major effort to avoid putting trailers on the properties of these elementary schools that we're doing here? I mean, what's the threshold at each school for population? How high can they get before you have to put a trailer on their property? Because I'm looking at ball camp out here, and we're pretty high from where we started about 5 years ago when my children started school compared to what it was then. And I mean, the only place for trailers really to go is in the parking lot or on our field that they use for field day every spring. So, I mean, there's no more space here. So if ball camp's going to be marginally affected compared to the other schools, what's it going to look like for ball camp whenever there are more subdivisions built that do feed into our schools?
That's an excellent question. So portables are exactly what they're meant for. They're temporary, and we actually move portables across the district. So it is never the desire or the goal for any school system to have a permanent standing portable. So to answer your question, yes, as we grow and we build new schools, the reality of it is we don't want portables on our campus. So we do look to move students in areas where we're not at capacity, and we don't have to put portables up at schools. We're not there yet. I mean, Knox County's booming as well as you know. And so until we get to that point, we will have to continue to reassess, look at building schools, and just try to keep up with the growing demands. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Is the rezoning just to bring like people that are at these current schools to send them to the Northwest Elementary School, or will the like if my kids go to ball camp and we don't get rezoned for Northwest, will they stay at ball camp, or is there a chance that they would also be rezoned to Carnes or Cedar Bluff or whatever? Will it affect the whole district, like the whole zoning, or is it just who's going to go to Northwest? Does that make sense?
It does. And so basically what Northwest will be doing is pulling students off of those schools. They won't be bouncing around from school to school to school. It's a good question.
Are you going to try to follow like for example, I live off level, one half of the level goes to Hardin Valley Middle, the other half of the level goes to Cedar Bluff Middle. Do you anticipate following similar routes? I know that's probably a bus route question for Ryan, but like, is that kind of the intention? Like to kind of, the reason why I'm asking is because if we got moved and then we're still zoned the other middle school, like his little buddies he might be split. Do you see what I'm saying? And so I understand logistics, but I also understand kids and friendships and things of that nature too.
No, certainly that is a big concern of ours, and that's before we start rezoning and sketching out transportation patterns and whatnot. We get the feedback first, and that's why it's important that we get your feedback and we understand the geographics of where you live and understand your needs and the community needs of those different areas, so he can take that in consideration. And we sit down as a team and we talk about the different concerns and needs for every elementary school. So it's not even half baked, right? Our plan is to get this in. I mean, that's what these guys do for. They're experts, and it's not difficult for them to go and map out a zone as far as transportation is concerned, but they won't do that without the feedback of our community. So to answer your question, that's why we need that input to take those things in consideration.
I can see it being helpful to try to stay with those same feeder patterns. I think that's kind of what you were trying to get at, right? I think that's kind of what you were trying to get at, just to try to help so that they can kind of try to follow their feeder pattern that they're kind of established in, if that makes sense?
It does. And we had a conversation in length about feeder patterns, and that's what I really want you all to understand tonight. This is focusing on the elementary schools. We're not talking about a domino effect on it affecting middle school or high school students.
Will kids be legacy doomed if you provide your own transportation?
So that's once again, that's where we need your input. That's a conversation that we would have to have after the fact. I will tell you, and I've been in 3 different school systems: Knox County again, Oak Ridge Schools, and Hamilton County Schools, which is all of Chattanooga. And I've seen it done 2 ways. I've seen it done where rising for the middle school students were grandfathered in, and I've seen where they've done the siblings, and it's worked out well in some situations, and it's worked out not so well in others, because when you grandfather in siblings, you have just changed your population immediately. And the whole intention is to not be at capacity. So I don't, to be honest with you, I don't know what direction we're going, but we do need that input because we need to take that in consideration as well. But we also have to look at capacity. That's a good question. 1,200.
No, of bulk camp. What's the ideal capacity?
Where's Sonny? What's your capacity? Do you know? For ball camp. Yeah.
10 years ago, I heard that it was 500, 520 something. Does that sound right? Maybe 550. It was in the 500s. If we're at 591 now, we're like definitely getting out there.
And that's why it's not ideal. The concept of a portable is for relief. It's not for a permanent fixture. Now, I will say, in all 3 school systems that I've been in, they turn into permanent fixtures because the counties continue to grow, and so we're just trying to stay ahead of that curve.
Is there like a percentage of like how over each school is? I think that would maybe help me in my math brain kind of think like where percentage-wise you might be trying to pull.
That's a great question, and as a matter of fact, that may be something we want to include. And basically, looking at the next presentation. Thank you. You just created the slide for me. We can look at the current school, and we can look at capacity, and we can get an easy percentage out of that. I'm going to ask you to present next time. I'll include you in the presentation. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry about that.
I just want to ask a clarifying question to the legacy one. So whether we're talking about kids coming up new to the school or whether kids currently at the school, maybe in 4th and 5th grade, would they switch?
So once again, it just depends on what you're looking at. I don't know the demands. I will tell you, being a middle school principal and a high school principal, you would usually look at the junior class and you would usually look at the 4th grade class. Those would be the ones that are normally grandfathered in.
My biggest concern would be having kids that end up at 2 different middle schools based if they went to 2 different elementary schools, based on the feeder patterns.
Yeah, the middle schools aren't changing. Yep. But that is a real concern. Are there any other questions or comments? Do you all have any comments? Anything you would like for us to consider?
Well, I'm just curious, because I had to go through this before with the middle school, and with the middle school, I went to all the zoning meetings when the school was just in development and they were thinking about it and everything, and they used some kind of equation like you were talking about where they said, each household's got 0.6 kids or something, I don't know. And I'm like, well, that might be good for the county as a whole to use, but Hardin Valley in particular, people are moving here for the schools with kids. So I think it's a lot higher here, a lot more people. For every house that moves in, maybe it's one kid or two kids. And using that formula that they used on the middle school, and it being about 5 years ago when they were doing that, how's that turned out with the Hardin Valley Elementary School? Is the population of the school today what you all thought it would be when you were planning it 5 years ago? Because I think it's going to be a similar problem for this new elementary school, because if you look where it is, a half a mile away, there's a lot of cow fields. And I know what Hardin Valley looked like 5 years ago. So there's going to be more demand over there. There's more coming to Hardin Valley. So I just wondered how accurate the forecasting was, I guess is what I'm saying.
That's a great question. I will tell you, the problem with projecting is you have to look at. I had an interesting meeting with one of the developers from Smith Build, and he was in communication with the county, and basically he came up with a number of 1.7 students per family. And he had the development of 400 homes and so forth. And so the conversation we had is you can project on what you're currently building, but you can't project on future builds, if that makes any sense. So they won't run a formula beyond what will be projected for the year 2023. So this development will be, or is it 2024 or whatever, right? So that's where it gets a little tricky, to your point, because once that development's built, you have projected. That's why we, with the new Northwest Elementary School, we're not moving in at capacity. So we'll have that room for expansion. Not to say that those cow pastures won't be a subdivision, and so it makes it very difficult. We have conversations frequently about we really wish there was a formula and we could understand, how many families, or I don't know, take a survey or do something, but unfortunately it's just a very difficult calculation. Year to year anyway. Yes, ma'am.
Something that I looked at that kind of, thank you. Something that kind of speaks to that is that you just told us there are 1,415 students at Hardin Valley this year, like as of this week or at the beginning of the school year. Your website actually says 1,215, and I'm not sure when that was last updated. So if it was from last spring, you've had 200 more students come in the last 4 months.
That's very accurate.
So there you go. That's a lot of growth. That's a lot of growth.
This might have been addressed already. I apologize. I came in late. I didn't see that you had just changed the slide from the map when I came in. Can you tell me where it is? And I'm thinking about traffic patterns. I got caught in that. Anybody get caught in that traffic situation yesterday at pickup? Wow. But we got some traffic problems right around the school. I'm wondering how, and then I've got two here at Ball Camp. I've got one at Carnes Middle and one at Hardin Valley Academy. And so my drop-off pickup route is absurd. I'm just curious if you guys know, like, what roads will be accessed, or will there be expansion or anything like that?
I will let Ryan speak to traffic patterns. It's the way their brain works when you talk about traffic patterns. They have it down to a science. Unfortunately, there is no easy way in most parts of Knox County, but he can either name streets or landmarks that you're familiar with that probably will alleviate some of that concern.
That was quite the lead-in, Garfield. I have a lot to live up to now. So specifically to traffic patterns, so the county has widened Cherahalla Boulevard, which goes up from Hardin Valley Road up to Coward Mill. And there's also going to be some widening that happens between Cherahalla and our property along Coward Mill. So there is going to be sort of, if you think about it, like coming from the south and west side of the school, there are going to be some infrastructure improvements. Coward Mill obviously goes a long way down. It gets about this wide as you go down, and there's one particular bridge that basically, like, if one of my buses is approaching, like, nobody else is crossing that bridge. So that is in the planning. Like, we don't have a date, but everybody acknowledges that that's not ideal and we need to do something about it, but we don't know when that something is going to occur.
Is that
Yes.
We are currently working with the
Yep.
Where was the location? I'm sorry. What you name those roads? I know those roads, but where is the actual property?
So
Like I just caught a glimpse of that map, and that's all I've seen.
That was just the current school.
there's
there
a
was like a little star. Wasn't that a little star where the?
yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So it is. There's not a ton of like good landmarks. Yeah, it's basically
Oh, yeah. That doesn't show us a lot.
so like this is Coward Mill, this is Hardin Valley Road, and so it's sort of there-ish.
And that's is that Pellissippi?
Yeah.
Kind of right off Pellissippi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's
You know
Pellissippi.
When you turn down
Okay.
Howard Mill, it's like right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've seen the the construction from Pellissippi.
Yep.
I just couldn't tell like what roads go to it.
Yep.
Okay.
Kind of like the extension of Cherry Hall off of Hardin Valley that goes up past the office buildings and PSB.
Yeah.
If you get to where it tees on Coward Mill, if you turn, it's only about 100 yards down the road from that intersection.
You just turn right and go down, that's all.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody want to talk about anything else?
You're hiring more bus drivers?
Lord, we're trying.
Are you looking for work?
Yeah. All right.
A candidate for attending this new Northwest school.
She wants to know so looking at that.
It looks very tight.
Looking at, and that's where it gets real tricky, right? When we start.
My kids, I live off a level too, so my kids ride the bus and it goes up, Thompson. I'm sorry.
Right.
And my kids go on the bus and they go up Thompson, pick up the kids there, and they go down Hardin Valley and they're at the school.
Right.
So, all those kids that are on Hardin Valley on this side, on the south side, that's the only ones that I could think of that are closer than us.
Yeah, and that's where I don't.
Huge chunk.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily look at that and start mapping it out because I don't either. But that's where I will say this on paper, a lot of things make sense to me. When I have a conversation with him, it's a foreign language because I can easily outline it and say, "Oh, that makes sense." But when he starts running the routes and where buses are going, that's when it gets a little tricky. So we will be very thoughtful on how we map that out, and you will have the why behind it, of course. But it would be really difficult for me. He would probably kill me if I started pointing areas out like, "Oh, that makes sense." So.
Do you see shifts, like, from
And drawing new lines of all those three schools. You're just percentage shifting from each
Absolutely.
school and not moving between.
Absolutely, yes. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Sonny, would you have any closing words?
Just that I'm excited. I went over there this week and walked the property again, and there are walls up, there's a roof up, you can walk down the hallway and see some lights in classrooms. It's like really happening, and it's fresh, it's beautiful. My favorite part is you can look out the classroom windows that are not in just yet, but you can look out the classroom windows and all you see are just a line of trees. It's quite beautiful. So it's neat, gives you chill bumps looking at it. So I'm excited to pull all three kids from all three schools into one. So it's gonna be neat.
Is there stuff at that school that's like latest and greatest, like technology and for after we all went through coronavirus, is there a better filtration system in that school, air handling systems, more cameras?
That I don't know, Mr. Shover.
So I can answer some of those questions. Any of our new facilities, the reality of it is they'll have all the upgrades. All of our technology is very similar, but when you have a new building, you really look at dead spots. And so currently, For instance, right now we're looking at all of our buildings and we're setting up antennas for dead spots, especially in some of our older high schools. And so this school will be well equipped with all of that already preloaded, right? And so as far as technology, you know, we're one-to-one, and all of our schools have all the latest technology. That's not an issue. So it will be a very nice, it'll be a beautiful school. So
Like every classroom will have a Promethean board. Teachers will have their laptops. Kids will have their Chromebooks. Some TVs placed in different areas, similar to what Hardin Valley, Ball Camp, and Carnes already have.
So right now we're hanging Promethean boards, the new Promethean boards in every school. As you can imagine, that takes time. So that school will be ready to go. No disruption to classroom instruction of any of that. It'll just be preloaded and ready to go.
Is there space that you're gonna have for like expansion if, like, say, you were mentioning like 15 years from now you had a wing or something?
So I'll let Mr. Shover answer that question, my architect.
And Mr. Shover can offer a little bit of unique perspective because I've been in the position I am with Knox County Schools for just over a year. And prior to that, I worked for the architect that did the design and was the project manager for the school. So I have a level of familiarity with it that a lot of folks don't. There is the ability to add additional classrooms. There is not the ability to add an entire wing, but there are 2 classroom wings, and we could add a number of classrooms off any of those ends of those wings, but there would not be a third dedicated wing that could be easily added. But there is the ability to expand it if need be.
And as a former special ed teacher, is the accessibility of the building gonna be all ADA compliant?
The building is fully ADA accessible. We'll have a special ed suite where there are essentially 2 classrooms that will share laundry facilities, OTPT, those kind of functions.
As a former special ed teacher and director, I can assure you it's going to have all that and then some. Are there any additional questions, comments, or concerns? Yes, ma'am.
Playgrounds at new schools, those are the responsibility of the new PTA, or is there a basic space provided that's built out for them to build something on, or is it completely bare ground, you have to figure it out, and you set up your PTA?
So that will be a conversation. That'll be a conversation. It'll be a conversation. It's different. So when you tear down a school with an existing playground, you replace the playground, right? When it's a new school and you don't have an existing playground, that's why it's a conversation. I try to stay in my lane.
There's space identified for a potential playground.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shover. You all have some great questions. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? All right, I'll end with this. Remember, please give your input to rezone. Yeah, thank you. It keeps going away. It will pop up. Please write it down or memorize it. Please provide your input by September the 22nd. We hope to gather all the input and then share the proposal for the school board to vote on, and that will be the last and final meeting that we have. I keep saying Sonny. I think Sonny's an exceptional principal, but I keep saying Sonny because I'd love for it to be called Sonny Elementary. I just throw that out there. What a great name for an elementary school. So, rezoning at knoxschools.org. So please provide your input and any information you'd like to share. Yes, ma'am.
Is there an opportunity for like a survey, and then will it be accessible for families who speak English is not their first language?
That's a great question, communications. I guess there will be. Absolutely, I agree. Any other questions or comments? All right. Once again, thank you so much for coming out tonight. We really appreciate your input. Appreciate you being here with us. We'll stick around for a while if you have any questions for us. If you want some one-on-one conversation, feel free to stick around. We will be here. But thanks again.